Hello, welcome. My name is Jenny Bloom, and I am the founder of the Office of Appreciative Education at Florida Atlantic University, and we are delighted that you have joined us for this webinar. The topic of conversation today is titled People Before Process, and our speaker is Michael Barocchia, who is from Utah State University, and some of her colleagues that she will be introducing to you in a moment. But I just want to tell you a quick story about Michael, as I've had the pleasure of going and speaking at a number of institutions across the country and across the globe. One of my favorite parts of those visits is often getting to spend time with whoever has drawn the short straw to be my host. And Michael was my host at Utah State University. And you know how it feels when you meet someone and you just immediately click? Well, that's how it was for Michael and me. And we just had some fantastic conversations throughout our visit. And subsequently, she's become an integral member of our Appreciative Education family. And so Michael has served on the faculty for the Appreciative Advising Institute. She's taken over for the Appreciative Administration online class and has just done a fantastic job there. And today she's going to share with us her thoughts on people before process. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm delighted to be here to share our experiences and for you to be able to see how an appreciative staff meeting can look when you start with people before process. I'm not delighted about our circumstances, but I am delighted to be able to share with you the experiences that we've had. Our session goal today is to model for teams how to create quality moments in remote format by enhancing the unique strengths and potential of the staff and focusing on empowerment and engagement. And I hope what you see throughout this session is how we can utilize questions to continue building our confidence in the work that we do and our self-confidence and the relationships that we have with each other. Today, you're going to see a lot of the people first experiences that we have. We also use these strategies when we work through our tasks. But in the interest of time today, we're going to share with you how we kick off our staff meetings and how we utilize these questions. And we'll get to the tasks at a future session. So here's our session agenda today. We're going to have a welcome and introduction section. Then we'll move into people before process remote strategies. We'll share with you an appreciative staff meeting. This isn't something that we've rehearsed. This is just an authentic look at what a staff meeting would look like. And then we'll debrief this together and answer any questions you might have. Andrea Olding is our Director of Advising and Student Success for statewide campuses. Maisie Hobbs-Doherty is our Academic Advisor for Humanities and Arts in Exploratory Advising. Tanya Jewell is our Academic Advisor in the Department of Communicative Disorders and Deaf Education. And I am Michael Barocchia, Director of University and Exploratory Advising. So what we're going to model for you is an appreciative staff meeting. We're going to be really authentic, and we're going to run this as if we were doing a staff meeting. We haven't practiced this in advance. We wanted to bring with you our authenticity so you can see how this looks and incorporate some of those principles into your staff meetings. So many of y'all that are familiar with the framework of appreciative advising will notice disarm and discover, dream and design, and deliver and don't settle. And as a leader, there are 4 things through this COVID crisis that I've been centering myself on: compelling communication, dynamic goals, self-reflection, and crowdsourced recognition. In Disarm and Discover, as we're moving to a virtual space, all of our teams have co-created and we've clearly communicated the ground rules for this virtual space. And I appreciate what Jenny and Amanda modeled before this session began. Inviting folks to turn off their microphones and make sure that they're muted while another presenter is talking is a really great strategy to relieve some frustration for folks when we're trying to pay attention to this meeting, but we hear background noises going on. Just reminding people to keep that microphone muted is a great strategy. We'll show you the ground rules for our meeting when we get started in our staff meeting. The next is using an agenda that's framed with questions and designate the time spent on each agenda item. You'll see that coming up as well. Next is to assign weekly partners who check in with each other a certain amount of times per week. My team is doing 3 times per week, and we're rotating that buddy. And next, start each meeting with a question designed to enhance the relationships among the team. We just modeled that with our "What is your first job?" but you're going to see another example that's more focused on our work lives in our agenda. And rotating the leadership of the entire meeting or just this opening portion of the meeting has really helped us a lot in growing the capacity of our staff, but also bringing new voices to leadership. In Dream and Design, I'm focused on dynamic goals. And many of you all are also focused on goals, and we're needing to stretch and be flexible about what our goals look like. And we can approach this in a couple of different ways. One is just to explain the goals and figure out how we're going to meet that. But a flipped and appreciative version of this is to figure out which of our strategic and unique strengths we can bring to the team to meet these goals. And this is a way that we put people first. When we start looking at what are your unique strengths and what are you bringing to the table and how can we line that with the goal that we have, it helps us to build the self-confidence and enhance that in our team and build stronger relationships between us. And finally, deliver and don't settle, self-reflection and crowdsourced recognition. Some examples of deliver and don't settle are here. We're going to go, again, you'll see this modeled. Here's some great questions that you can use, but you'll see this modeled in our staff meeting. So we're going to officially start our staff meeting right now. These are our ground rules. Please mute your Zoom microphone when you're not speaking. It's either at the top or the bottom. For me, because I'm a presenter, I think it's at the top, but for folks that aren't presenters, it's at the bottom. So Andrea, Maisie, and Tanya, if you'll mute that when you're not speaking. We know that our staff meetings are interactive, and we've seen all of the videos going around without all of us talking over each other and then saying, you go, you go, you go. So if we get to a space where 2 people or more of us are talking over each other, I'll moderate. I'll say Tanya first, then Andrea, or Andrea first, then Maisie, so we don't have to worry about the back and forth. If you start to lose any of the bandwidth, just turn off your camera. That should help you with staying clearly connected to the meeting. And then feel free to share any of your thoughts, comments, questions in the chat. I, as a meeting leader, will address those throughout the staff meeting, and I will compile those after the meeting and then email them to all of us to make sure that we address everything that we were talking about. And then I just want to invite you not to work on other tasks like checking your email during this virtual meeting, invite you really to be connected to our space. So we're going to kick us off. I want us to think about for 2 minutes. I'm just going to put my microphone on pause. So Andrea, Tanya, and Maisie, for 2 minutes, I want you to look at the agenda and reflect on how you're going to contribute to this meeting. Feel free to jot a few notes down for each of those question items that you want to make sure that you get in when it's your turn. So I'm just going to give us 2 minutes to reflect on this agenda. And for folks that are joining us, feel free to reflect on some of your own experiences this week through these questions and reflect on those for the next 2 minutes. I'll just put us on pause for 2 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for that quick reflection. I want to assign responsibilities. We just have two things that we need to do today. We need someone to keep us on track with time, so just to wave when we're getting close to the end of the time allocated for the question. Will someone, I can only see Andrea and Tanya. Tanya, will you just keep time and just give us a wave when we're getting close to the end of those questions? And then Maisie, I'm wondering if you'll just take a few notes on the meeting. And Andrea, I'm wondering if you'll keep track of anything that we needed to put in a parking lot that needed to address, that we said we'll address this later in a future meeting. Will everyone nod if that works for them? Okay, perfect. So Maisie, will you kick us off?
Yes, definitely. So I'm in charge of the question this week, and I was hoping that we could do it popcorn style. So once I finish my question, I'll just popcorn it on to the next person, and then they can choose the next one. So the question this week is, what is something you've accomplished this past week that made you, like, that you feel proud of? One thing I was thinking of is during this time with COVID, I've kind of realized how my mental health, I feel like I haven't made a huge priority as I should have. And I've realized, like, some days, you know, from working at home, it's like 5 o'clock and I still haven't stepped a foot outside. And that's not good for me. And like, I realized that's not good for my mental health. So something I did this last week is make a list of things that I can do in order to feel like accomplished, or make sure I'm in a good mood or whatnot, because I can feel at the end of the day if I haven't made that a priority. So every day during lunch, I've just walked around my apartment complex, which has been really good, or I'll create little like check-ins, like, okay, like at this time I need to make sure I get this done or whatnot, just making it more of a priority. And I can already feel like that's like made a huge influence just on my work week. Like, I feel like I'm working better, I'm more on task, just because I've made my mental health more of a priority. So that's made me really proud because I've stuck to my goals. So I'm gonna popcorn it to Tanya.
Okay, so day two of homestay, I purchased some Nerf guns, and at 5:30, I'm upstairs in the bedroom office, and my husband has taken over the dining room, so I don't even go down to the kitchen much because I don't want to walk across his screen because he's in meetings all lot. But at 5:30, I crept out of my office, I slumped down the stairs, I went around and I shot him with a Nerf gun. And then I handed him a Nerf gun and I ran. And this has kind of become our thing now. At 5:30, you hear the cock of this gun and you grab yours and you run. And even if we run outside or inside or whatever, and it has become hilarious. I have texted my grandkids, my kids, and said, Grandpa and I are in a Nerf war. And they think it's hilarious. And now I've even started to talk to students and say, hey, what have you done that's just been crazy fun? And they tell me, and they say, well, what about you? And I'm like, I have Nerf wars with my husband every day. And I'm going to have PTSD because every time I hear the click of that gun, I jump and I grab mine and run. But it has made me move, and it's hilarious. So that has been my stress relief. I forgot. I'm supposed to popcorn that to Andrea. You've got 1 minute. Go.
Well, I have to say something that I really appreciate about you, Tanya, and I was thinking about this even before the meeting, is that you always bring the fun and the lightheartedness into every situation or every meeting, so thank you. When I was thinking of a response to this question, something that I accomplished this week that I'm proud of, I really thought of something that our statewide team in collaboration with other units has accomplished. And it's in regards to a Navajo Nation shelter-in-place order that was enacted on March 20th. And because USU is our land grant institution in Utah, we've got rural campuses across the state, including 2 residential campuses in Price and Blanding, and we have a high population of Navajo students. And due to the shelter-in-place order, and the fact that Navajo students tend to travel home to help their families and be close to home on the weekends, many students were stuck, and I don't stuck in a nice way, with their families away from our campuses, and they weren't able to return. And on Navajo Nation, there isn't a lot of internet, and so we've identified 220 something students who really don't have access to complete their courses, even though their courses have transitioned online. And so it's been a week and a half, 2 weeks of very intensive planning and communication and work to try to figure out how to support these students, and also designing completely new course completion and grading options for these students. And so I'm just really proud of the way we've all been able to be flexible and coordinate and come up with solutions. And now we're in the rollout phase at the end of this week. So I guess I'll popcorn it back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. My accomplishment was the same thing. I cannot believe what we have done. It feels like we've moved a mountain. It feels like every single day we do a week's worth of work as we've tried to respond to this. And I'm incredibly proud of the way that we've all come together to make that happen. So the next part of our agenda is about sincere praise. And I know that many of us haven't been able to do our work we've been able to do our work this week because of the work of others. And I want to gather a bucket, a short one, of some experiences that we've had this week with our partners, either on our direct teams or within our community. So Tanya, will you kick us off? Can you just tell me who you think would benefit from some sincere praise this week? And then Maisie, will you write down who it was and what they did, and we'll make sure that we follow up with that person and let them know how great of a job they're doing. Tanya?
Sure. So I've had a lot of transfer students this past week, and they come in as pre-students, but they're transferring in with an associate's degree, which means that I really need to get them into the program, but they're not coded right. And so I've been emailing Holly Merrill like every other minute, like, Holly, I need her moved. I need this person moved. I need this person moved so that they can register. And just her response has just been just like that. And I would also say that, so we had an introductory class that last night students were trying to register for, and it said they needed instructor signature. That was nuts. My email was blowing up. And so, of course, I, like a student, I didn't respond to them, but I emailed Shanice and just said, "Wah!" And right this morning it was fixed, so I could just create a quick template and just start emailing those students. So I would just say that the behind the scenes that people hardly ever see, Holly and Shanice just deserve a huge shout. Oh, am I supposed to popcorn that now, Michael?
Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Okay, Andrea.
Okay, so who could benefit from sincere praise? I really would want to give a shout out to one of our fellow advisors who recently applied for a position. She made it really far through, had an interview, but ultimately was not the candidate that we selected for the position. And she and I met today to discuss that, and she had reached out to me just for feedback. And I just sincerely appreciate and respect the courage and vulnerability that it took for her to have that conversation with me. And I felt like we had just a really good conversation. I value the work that she does so much, and just appreciated that opportunity for us to grow together, and the strength that it took for her to have that meeting with me. So I guess I'll popcorn it to Maisie.
Yeah, so I was thinking this last week in our office, like Michael said, there's been a lot of changes with like our offices combining, and now on top of like the COVID and everything like that, our office is going under construction right now. So there's just been a lot of like office things that we need to get taken care of and whatnot. And most of our office is working from home, but there are a few that are still on campus. And I know, Michael, you were involved with this, but there was a lot of stuff that needed to get moved out of our office so the construction workers could go in there and start this remodeling process so that we can have a new office when we are able to work from campus again. So I just feel like really grateful to Stephanie and Ryan and you, Michael, for being there and being able to work with those construction workers, because I know obviously it's been a really crazy time this week with registration, all of the changes that are going on and things to manage. So it was, I felt really grateful because I was home, things got accomplished, and I think you guys deserve some sincere praise for doing that for all of our team. So thank you, and I'll popcorn it to you, Michael.
Thank you so much. It feels so nice to be recognized for that. It was just such a stressful time when they bumped up the schedule and we're starting that construction early. And I really appreciate that sincere praise and what everyone else has said. So Maisie will get that out to everyone after the meeting. If you'll reach out individually, whoever you were thinking of, if you'll just send someone a quick email. One thing that I've done this week for sincere praise is I sent a postcard to everyone on our team. I just ordered some blank ones from Amazon. I had my neighbor kids decorate the front of it, of each card, something USU style. And then I've just sent everyone on our team a sincere thanks, noting some of the things that they've done this week. So our final question for this portion of our meeting is, how would you envision us building upon or leveraging your unique strengths so they would become even greater advantages for the future? And Maisie, I'd like to start with you. You're a brand new advisor. Now you're working from home, and I'm wondering what strengths you've recognized in yourself and how you can see that becoming even greater advantages as we move forward.
Yeah, so one thing I appreciated when I got hired is I went through like that Clifton strength test and whatnot, and that was so great for me because I think at first I was like, I don't really know what my strengths are like when working. Like I had an idea of like when I felt most alive and all of that stuff, but it was really great to see some of the top 5 strengths being like positivity, working with others, you know, flexibility, all of these things. And I've noticed like I feel like I've been handed like responsibilities that are either like directly with our students or working with this appreciative advising. And I think like I have found that like my strengths come when I have like those tasks handed to me that like I can grow and develop in them. So I just appreciate like as a new advisor, I feel like people have put like trust in me with these responsibilities, and I feel like that has made me grow and develop and learn so much quicker, like in my responsibilities and in like my assignments by having these tasks. So, and like just it was helpful to do like that strengths exam just to realize and be able to identify like how my strengths are coming into this tasks, and I really can like play to those advantages. So I just would say like I think like that trust and like just having those tasks has really helped me grow. So I will popcorn it.
I'm interrupting you for just a minute. I just want to recognize and I appreciate that you've just mentioned trust, because I'm actually noticing myself, I'm like feeling that growing between us, like even just over the last 2 weeks. I'm getting things thrown at me a million miles a minute, and I'm thinking, who can I count on and who's going to deliver? And I appreciate the way that you've just stepped up. I don't feel bad about bringing you to the table for these important discussions or overwhelming you. You've kept me in the loop and let me know where you're at with your tasks. And so I can actually feel that trust growing between us. Even though we're in a remote space, you're just delivering at such a high level, well beyond where you are years-wise in this profession. I want to thank you, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, let's bump off to whoever's next.
We'll go to Andrea.
So I guess when I think of my unique strengths, I'm a strategic thinker, so I really like processes and outcomes. So what's our big goal? What are all the pieces? What's working, what's not working? How do we collaborate to solve problems and implement initiatives? And so I think I do best when I have time to reflect, when I have time to research and understand all of the information and the pieces and really think about where everything fits. I think something that I struggle with is sometimes feeling like an island or needing to remind myself that we've got a great team of people, those within our unit, but also our institution, you know, we have a lot of connections and a lot of resources even within, inside and outside of our unit. So I think for me, what would, I guess what I need to recognize or what could become a greater advantage is leaning on others, recognizing that I don't have to have, know how to do something, that I can reach out, and it's okay to not be good at something, but to rely on somebody else within our team who maybe doesn't have that same strength that I have, but they've got a strength that I need and that can support the work that we need to do together. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's what's on my mind. So I'll popcorn it to Tanya.
So Macy, welcome to Utah State. I haven't had a whole lot to do with you yet, but I look forward to that. Andrea, I love that you are always strategic, okay? Because you're very grounded. And as you said before, I'm like the class clown. Not in a bad way, I guess. But what I found that has really, I mean, I on my Clifton Strength things it said empathy, but I do love humor. So this past week, every night I have been going into my contacts at work, sending them a hilarious text, something to say, hey, I missed your face. We're gonna get through this. And I think it's just really important to connect and not, I have a thing I was going to tell you guys about that just says, you know, everything in the universe is magnetic and everything has a magnetic frequency, including your thoughts and feelings, and you attract what you send out. And so I don't want to send out these bad vibes to my students, to my coworkers. I want them to know that we've got this, and that how can this make us better? I think to ask those questions like, what are you guys doing that's going to make this, that we're going to come out of this and go, wow, I am better. And I just think that maybe my strength is to throw in the Nerf gun. I've been telling students that, and I've been getting emails saying, Tanya, who's winning, you or your husband? And it's just being able to laugh and connect on that level of, yeah, people before process. Let's get together and let's laugh. Michael.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate a couple of things that were said throughout this portion of our agenda. The first thing is that I've been feeling, because I'm here working alone and I'm not able to bounce ideas off of people, Andrea and I had an experience this week. We're doing new things. We're really trying to find role clarity and who's responsible for what. And I had a strength in using an Excel formula, and Andrea had a strength in communicating to advisors, but it was almost flipped. Like, what was needed from Andrea's role was the Excel thing, and what was needed from my role was the communication part, but it just didn't fit with, it wasn't feeling right with my strengths, and I was feeling like a little insecure and like not confident that I wasn't able to deliver on something that should have been my responsibility. And Andrea and I have talked about this. She was feeling the same thing. So Andrea, we were able to utilize it. I was feeling like it was a problem, but it was actually an opportunity. Will you just talk a little bit about what we experienced with like feeling insecure and then how we were able to build our self-confidence through our discussion?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I wanted to bring it up, but I wasn't sure if it would be the right moment to. So it's about the Navajo Nation shelter-in-place order and the work that we've been doing and collaborating. And we brought Michael in, even though it felt like a statewide issue or need because of her expertise in advising. And what we didn't know is how great she is at mail merges and data and spreadsheets. And I was tasked with doing something that would have taken me, I mean, honestly, a couple days to figure out because I'm not good with mail merges, and it's silly to admit that, but Michael stepped in, and I think she felt a little insecure or vulnerable about taking that leadership because she was sort of an invitee into this group that had already been doing the work, but now we needed it to go to this next level. And none of us could really figure out a clear way to get the communication organized, to get it to the right people, to collect the data efficiently. And so she jumped in and took the lead. And then I was super grateful. And afterwards, she and I connected informally to discuss. And she kind of brought up how she was feeling a little bit uncertain if she had overstepped. And you know, I absolutely didn't think that way at all. I was so grateful that she was able to offer something a skill that I didn't have, that would have really slowed down our process if I had felt like I needed to be the one to do it. So to have a team member that's willing to jump in and utilize their strengths, it really doesn't matter who's assigned something or who's, you know what I mean, what we think our roles are. In a situation like this, we have to be willing to be flexible and adaptable and really lead with the strengths of others. And for me, and then I know I'm talking a lot, but for me, I had a similar insecurity almost in reverse. I was feeling badly that in a moment, I didn't know how to do something that maybe I should know how to do. And so Michael put my fears at rest by letting me know that it's okay to not know how to do something, that we can lean on the strengths of each other. So I really appreciated that, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And I think the flip side of that was I was in a conundrum about how we were going to get the advising community trained on that issue. And you were able to just so clearly see what the steps were. And so that, like, it almost felt like we were just trading off a task to align with our strengths. And I think we need to remember that as we move into the future. So that's the end of our meeting for today. We really won't be sending these notes, but if this was a real staff meeting, we would ask our note taker to send the notes. Thank you, Tanya, for doing the time. Thank you, Andrea. We didn't have anything in the parking lot for today, but thank you for being that person. And Maisie, thank you for being our note taker. I want to give you a theory to practice idea about why we use these generative questions to guide our teams. I've been feeling very vulnerable as a leader. I've been very worried about our ability to serve students from a remote space when this wasn't something we had time to train and build our capacity in. And I was having some of these bad thoughts. So you can see this graph on the 23rd of March. Last year, we should have been at 60 students and we were at 40 students served. And you can see how low that graph was going. And we had 4 people working a 40-hour work week essentially. And really, it looked like we were reaching out to not very many students. And this is what I was thinking, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I want to take an opportunity to share this so you can see how we reframed. You are making our team look bad, and I'm feeling like a bad leader. If you don't get this right, all of us will lose the opportunity for remote work in the future. We can't afford to pay you for a 40-hour work week when you are producing 8 hours of work in a whole week. These are some things, some initial fears, and they weren't true. None of this stuff was true, but when I looked at this data, these were my initial thoughts. And I'm a person that usually does put process before people. So the mantra of people before process has really helped me. So I got this data, I looked through my fears. If you know Brene Brown, this was armored leadership. I recognized that in myself. I took a step back, and instead of going to the team and asking them, why aren't you getting any work done? And how are you spending all of your days when you're supposed to be working? The question that I asked was, how can you maximize the tools you have to represent and communicate the work that you're doing? And what we realized is we've had all of these student interactions. Our office is on a campus where most of the students just come in and do walk-ins and face-to-face appointments. And now we're moving into the email space. We weren't recording in our system email interactions. And so people weren't able to represent the work that they were doing and communicate that in the tools we were using because we haven't had a practice or a process of recording emails. And so by asking that flip question, you can see how that, we asked the question on March 27th at the end of a meeting, and then you can see on March 30th how things changed for us in the next week. So I just wanted to share that quick theory to practice. It could have felt like a struggle in the meeting. You need to record your emails. Why aren't you meeting with students? Instead, by flipping that question, you can actually have a rich discussion and come out of it by building trust. Rather than using data as a hammer, you can use data as a flashlight. So I'm going to just pause here. I'm going to stop my share and bounce it out to Jenny, Amanda, Brian for next steps.
I'm trying to find my unmute button. Am I unmuted at the moment? I've got everybody on the screen right now, so it's like, where is my button? Michael, I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on what you have seen in terms of your approach with working with your staff, kind of flipping this approach and seeing those who may have been feeling a little deflated, what the impact has been on productivity, on engagement, and so forth.
So the first thing that I have to share is that we come from an institution where we feel very held, and there's a safety net for us. We have a lot of resources in place for our employees. We know that these are unprecedented times, and we know that the expectation isn't to perform at the same level that we were performing before all of this happened, or where we were last year. And I'm incredibly grateful to work in an institution like that. So that allows me as a leader to frame up the way that I communicate with my staff, which is making sure that everyone is well. And both mentally, like Maisie said, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of our wellness areas. And I find myself actually looking, instead of asking people process or productivity questions, I'm actually asking questions like, are you taking a lunch break? Or have you taken, I want everyone, it's mandatory that everyone schedules a 15-minute break in the morning and in the afternoon. So I'm noticing that the questions that I'm asking, or the demands that I'm making, or suggesting, the demands are like, you have to take a lunch hour. And I feel like, and maybe Maisie can talk about this a little bit more, but I feel like that's creating space for trust to be built, and that people, as we focus on our people, they work out the best process possible, and we can trust them to do that. But it can start with me as a leader. On the flip side of that, me as an employee and some of the other spaces that I'm in, I really wasn't feeling like I was being led in an appreciative way. And it was really bumming me out because I wasn't being recognized for the hard work that I'm doing in putting people before process. And I was feeling like I was having pressure on me to only focus on process and not worry about people. And I had to step back from that and think about, how can I model this for my 1-up or for my 2-up? And how can I share the strategies that we're using about how I need to be led at this time too? I've never really I've talked to my supervisor a lot and the people around us about how I need to be led, but I'm also finding myself being more vocal about the questions that I need to be asked. So I'm sending, in my one-to-ones, I'm sending my boss a list of questions that I want to be asked. So I want to discuss this question. And I think that's helping the relationship be strong, even if there is a little bit of tension there.
So, Michael, before I make a comment, I want to invite everyone, if you have any questions for Michael and her team, to please go ahead and put them in the group chat, because Brian is raring to go in terms of leading the Q&A session. My comment is, Michael, like, number one, I want to come work for you. Number two, I think probably everybody on here is like, oh my gosh, I would love to be part of a meeting like that. I would pay big dollars to be part of a staff meeting like that. Number two, it's like you can literally feel the respect, the trust, the love that you all have for each other. And that is just a really powerful thing to be able to witness. So I want to thank all of you for role modeling for us what an appreciative, respectful environment looks like, because it's really powerful to listen to you all speak. So thank you for that. What you were just talking about, Michael, so often we're quick to say, hey, we're not getting this from the people that we're reporting to, so why should I bother to do this to my people? Or they're not doing this to me, so I don't have a role model in terms of this, so I'm not even going to begin to try, because I need to model what I'm being told needs to be done. So I think that there's a level of rebellion and not falling into that trap, but focusing on what you do have control over. And I've been thinking lately about like a boomerang, like what it is that I'm feeling I want from my supervisor means that means I need to be sending that out into the world, because of course the beautiful thing about this is when you send it out into the world, it comes back to you. And so so I think that's part of it. But what I really also liked about what you just said was that you were then you were being clear with the people that you report to about what your needs are right now, because people can't read our minds. And if we need something, we need to be clear and transparent about what it is that we need. And I also think, you know, putting out into the world what it is that we're hoping for from our supervisor really can make a huge difference. So with that, Brian, do you want to maybe, I don't know that we have a lot of questions, but there are a couple. But then I also want to have Brian maybe just give us a synopsis of the kinds of comments that are in the chat right now.
First, we're actually going to jump over to Amanda because Amanda had her hand up. So Amanda?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So really, really quick, just to follow up on what Michael said, I wanted to give a shout out because yes, we all want to come work for you. And I happen to be one of the luckiest people on the call because I have a boss like Michael and Jenny. And so she's role modeled this way for me. And she has not always seen me at my best, most appreciative self a few times over the past few weeks as we've been pivoting and adjusting. So thank you, Jenny, for that. But secondly, I wanted to share with you, yeah, let's just be real, right? And we try very hard to role model what we preach, but I'm a sinner, not a saint, as Jenny often says. Last Friday, Jenny and I received a text message from Rob Friedhoff, who was on the call, but I think he may have had to hop off. And I wanted to share just one other strategy that has been really well received with my team that I thought you all might like to implement. And basically, he started a text challenge with his. Yes. Oh, you're here. Oh, great. Rob, can you share your text challenge?
It was kind of fun listening to you do it. I thought about just letting you roll.
Yeah, no, you hop on. I just didn't know that you were still on. Thanks.
I was listening. So I sent you a text. I probably should have done it in the chat. You probably would have seen it then. Yeah, so hey, everybody, this is Rob Friedhoff. I serve as a interim AVP at Valdosta State and had the good fortune of doing a webinar last week. And Amanda and I were talking towards the tail end of last week about taking care of teams, much like Michael was doing. Michael, by the way, awesome job. Loved everything you and the team did today. Great stuff. And so one of the things I did on Friday morning, because I was kind of feeling the tiredness of my team. So last Friday, I sent out a text challenge to the leadership team that I've got. And I just asked 3 questions, and they were pretty quick questions. But the first question was, please take a moment to brag on someone on your team or a colleague on your leadership team who has done great work this week. So gave them an opportunity to kind of shoot out some text. And what was interesting was how quickly everybody responded. This was fairly early on a Friday morning. We had registration week last week. And so they were all dying and needing a little bit of time to kind of chat with some colleagues. But we did the brag on somebody, which worked really well. The second question that we asked was really related to them. So I said, what is something that you did really well this week? And I said, I'm taking off survival, and I didn't kill anyone as options for answers. I wanted to make sure that they gave a legitimate answer to how their week had gone and what was something positive that they had done. And the third one was, how were they going to celebrate surviving the week and recharging their batteries over the weekend, which was kind of fun to hear. And then based on how well this text outreach went, about an hour later, I then sent out a virtual happy hour for 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. We the way we work, we do 8 to 5:30 Monday to Thursday, and then 8 to 3 on Friday. So we end our days at 3 on Fridays at VSU. You want to come work for me? Come on, let me know. But we did a virtual meetup, a virtual happy hour for an hour Friday afternoon from 2 to 3. So it was during work hours, but it just said the only rule of the meetup is that work is off limits. We're just going to talk about life and what people are doing and how it's going in COVID-19. So both the text outreach and that meetup for an hour went really, really well. I think went a long ways in just helping de-stress the team, but also connecting the team a little bit better.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're also going to dive into some of the questions that we've gotten from everyone on the webinar. So, Michael, how often do you lead these team meetings? Is it once a week, twice a week? And how has that like shifted being more virtual?
So we have changed our meetings. I learned about a lot of these strategies in the Appreciative Administration course. I took that 2 or 3 years ago, and we have shortened the length of our meetings, and we're having them more often. So 2 meetings a week, a Monday and a Wednesday. We kick this off first thing in the morning. We start with the guiding question like Maisie asked, and then we go into business. Sometimes we'll have additional questions, and the questions aren't always as structured as what we've shared with you. Sometimes we develop space once a month for this type of question-based long session. But we've incorporated all of these principles into our meetings. So big picture about the structure, we're meeting for a shorter period of time, more frequently, 2 half-hour meetings instead of 1 one-hour meeting. And then we're utilizing these questions in our 1 or 1.5 hour meetings to be guided and agenda-based, question-based agendas rather than a list of to-do items. We're still doing the to-dos, we're just approaching it in a different way.
Awesome. Very, very interesting to see breaking meetings up more virtual and having more of that face-to-face with everyone on your staff. I really like that. So how do your higher-ups respond to you by guiding their interactions with you?
I'm incredibly lucky because the person I report to is really open to me being vulnerable about what it is that I need. So when I wasn't feeling like I was getting what I needed, I was able to say, these are the questions that I need to be asked, and I felt very safe to do that. But I was also a little more strategic. I used my communication skills as a strategic advantage as a way to connect with my one-up. And I created a guideline for how we put people before process. And I asked her if I could send it to the other directors on our team just to give them some ideas. And when she looked at it, she's like, this is so great. This is so amazing. And I was thinking to myself, this is what I've been trying to tell you for the last 3 weeks that I've been doing. I've been trying to tell you how amazing this is. But just approaching it, I had to approach it in a different way rather than I was just begging for some validation and some feedback about how hard I'd been working to put people before process, and I wasn't getting it. And so I just flipped it and thought, how can I utilize, how can I share with my team, with my boss, what it is that I'm doing, but how can I also use it to benefit what other folks are doing? And we used a crowdsourced strategy. So I just sent it out to everyone and said, give me some of the ideas that you've been doing, and I'll put that on the list and get it out to everyone. So it was received really well. It was kind of me getting in my own way for part of that.
And can you share some of the guidelines that you set with the person that oversees you and your staff that you set with them? Like examples of guidelines?
I've been really clear with my supervisor what the guidelines look like for my team and what those expectations are for my team. And we have co-designed what that looks like together so that my boss has buy-in on understanding that these are different times. This is not the same as how things have been before, and so it means that we need different outputs. So we've co-designed what those outputs look like, and then that makes me feel safe as a leader because my boss knows what I'm expecting of the people on my team.
Awesome, thank you. And then do you, does your team work in collaboration with the athletic academic advisors at USU?
Yeah, we have strategic meetings set up with our partners, so they're not involved in these ongoing chats that we're having, but we have other spaces where we're making connections with those folks.
Awesome. And then I just have one more question. So everyone that has shared has been very vulnerable, but for me, I'm more shelled off. I don't like letting people in all right away. How do you work with, how do you break down those barriers with people who may not be as vulnerable or more reserved?
There's a lot of different strategies for doing this, and what you have seen is we have a foundation of this type of interaction, so you can't expect that this will happen overnight just by asking generative questions. It takes time to build this type of relationship and trust. But we've also, Andrea, I'm just going to share something that you said. Andrea's been she's more introverted. She doesn't, she she has come up with ways to be the person asking the question, and then that's allowing her to be more vulnerable as well. So if you're a person that's vulnerable or doesn't necessarily like to share as much, by asking the question first can be really disarming for yourself.
Awesome, thank you. I want to make sure that we're conscious of time, so I'm going to pass it on over to Jenny. If anyone develops any questions moving forward, just keep sharing them in the group chat, and we should be sharing out the Q&A at the end when we send out all of the material.
Great, thanks so much, Brian, and many, many thanks to Michael and friends at Utah State. Wow, just a really inspiring session that you've provided, and I love the practical tips that you were able to share. So I also wanted to kind of just give a quick sneak peek, because we are going to be shifting our Appreciative Advising Institute this year. This is our 10th annual institute, and we will be offering it in a virtual live synchronous format. And there will be information coming out soon, and will be on our Office of Appreciative Education website. So be on the lookout for that, because we're going to be hosting one in June and one in July, and we're really excited because we are going to take the magic of the small groups at the Appreciative Advising Institute, and we're going to transform that into a virtual environment. So be on the lookout for that information. And with that, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And we will be hosting another webinar probably in about 2 weeks, and we will send it out through our listserv. So please feel free to email us if you're not on the listserv. But yes, and otherwise, I'm going to have Amanda put up her heart signal here. We send you lots of love from South Florida and Florida Atlantic University. Thank you for all you do for your students, and thank you all. Stay safe. Bye-bye.